Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Live, last year, live from the Alps of Austria. So we're holding the first words in Daf Samach Vav and Aleph. What's going on? Today we're going to finish up the sugya of grasshoppers. We're in the middle of grasshoppers. And then we're going to move on to the sugya of fish. So here's a grasshopper. Grasshopper, the simanim that the Torah tells us they have 4 wings, and the 4 wings cover most of their body. They also have 4 legs, and then they have these jumpers called kartzulayim. The Gemara here calls it kru'ayim. These guys, they're massive compared to the legs, and then they push on them and it launches them. They jump very far. They don't even need it. They have wings. Okay. So, I was just thinking maybe it's like the aircraft carrier, you get launched by that wire thing, but it also has its own. It could fly by itself, but it gives it a little bit of a head start. That's a chagav. Now, the Gemara says there's 800 types of chagavim that are tamei, and today, scientists, whatever, they know about 11,000, I think it was, 11,000 types of chagavim. It doesn't say tamei, not tamei, so it's not a steer to what the Gemara says. The Gemara says there's 800, which is not a guzma. 800 is a low number. There's 800 types of chagavim that are tamei. The Torah tells us only about 4. On the bottom pasuk you see, it says, ha'arbe liminoi, v'sasolam liminayu, v'sachargu liminayu, v'sachagav liminayu. 4. The first pasuk is a very general klal. It says, if it has these jumpers, the 2 jumpers, you're allowed to eat it. So 800 types of this, 11,000 types of grasshoppers that have jumpers, you're allowed to eat it. That's pasuk Chav Aleph. But pasuk Chav Beis is no, not so fast. It has to be one of these 4. So, what's going on here? So yesterday we saw Machloikes, as you see on Daf Samachem and Aleph on the bottom. You don't have to go there, but I'll just read it. It says, the one man Omar says that from these 4, I just put it, I changed it a little bit today, Limino, Limineu, Liminei, Limineu, the 4 Liminois, because we're going to need it for the next sugis. I changed what's red and what's blue. But anyway, there's 4 extra types. In addition to these 4 that the pasuk brings, there's another 4 that you're allowed to eat. Tziparis kromim. If you remember, I said yesterday, this Gemara in Shabbos says if you eat half of this tziparis kromim and you learn a lot of Torah, learn the whole Shas, and then you eat the second half, you'll remember it all forever. That's Gemara in Shabbos. All right. So now, and the 4 that the Gemara says tziparis kromim, yoichan yushalmi bar tzuvia. Tziparis kromim, yoichan yushalmis. Vartzuvia varazbonis. V'yoichan Yerushalmis is 1. Vartzuvia varazbonis. Okay, fine. We're not going to remember those names anyways. No nafkamina. So now we're holding the daf Samach Vav and Aleph on top. Oh, and the other Mandamar says that it's a klal prato klal. We're going to get into that. That if it has a long head, comes to talk about this long-headed guy. Where is he? Here, the long-headed guy. This is a grasshopper. There's a long head, and comes to exclude this. It comes to be married, but just the long-headed guy comes to exclude a cricket. If you're in the mountains, if you're in Eretz Yisrael, they have crickets everywhere. They make a lot of noise. They look very, very similar to a grasshopper. Has the 4 legs, 2 jumpers. It even has a little bit of a tail going on, but it's not a grasshopper. Okay. So until we get to the fish, we have to finish off the grasshopper situation. What's the machlokes between Tana the Rav, the Tanakama, and the Rav Yishmael? They're arguing about this guy right over here on the screen, the long-headed grasshopper. Tanavei Rav Sovar asher loy kru'ayim klal, arbes solom chargel cholav v'mineu prat. So the Satmars for sure say korbunas every single day, so they know what klal prat is. I'm not going to talk to them. What's klal prat? It's very, very simple. Oh, we could do this. Favus nicht. This is klal. Klal means everything. Everything. The Torah says anything that has a jumper, you're allowed to eat. So if I just stopped right there, I could eat everything. Greens, blues, yellows, all the colors, all the shapes. The problem is that the Torah says, 4. It went from 11,000 to 4. So what do you do when you have a generalization and then a miut, a prat? It stops the whole klal. There's nothing. The klal is gunished, and you go straight to the prat. Only 4. Instead of 11,000, now we have 4. Arbe solom chargel cholav prat. Klalu prat, ein baklal, l'mashav prat. We say it all the time in Kabbalah. Sometimes you don't know what we're talking about. But klalu prat, ein baklal, l'mashav prat. The klal is nothing. We go with the prat. It's very, very different. If I add another klal at the end, then it becomes a sandwich. Then I add a lot of stuff. What stuff? Everything that's similar to the prat gets added. So now I went from 4 to 200. If the 200 are similar to the 4, then it's all the 200. But right now, I'm just at a klal and a prat. Klal and prat, ein ba klal l'mashav prat. The mine in, if it's those 4, yes. The lav mine loy. End the story. But what? Umar b'dedomile mishnei tzdadim. It says we do add. And what are we going to add? We're going to add anything that has two similarities. First of all, it has to have the 4 simanim. What are the 4 simanim? Nachamol. 4 legs, 4 wings, 2 jumpers, and the 4 wings, they cover most of the body. That's one side. Second side is it doesn't have a long head. Here, if you look closely at this picture right over here, you'll see that these guys, there was a whole sugya yesterday. It has hair, doesn't have hair. This guy, if you notice, he has a tail. This guy's the one next to him on the left is the long-headed one. Okay. And the one, the chagav, is boring, has nothing special about it. Doesn't have a long head, doesn't have a tail, and he's bald. Okay. Says Gemara, Tana Baby Shmuel comes along and says, no. Instead of me just adding 4 types of grasshoppers that are similar to the 4 types in the Torah, I have the jumpers, anything that has a jumper, that's a klal. The Torah talks about 4 special ones, that's prat. But then the Torah says in here, that's why I did it in the pasuk. You can see, Asher lo kirayim, which is in red. Oops. Yeah. That's a klal. It means all the grasshoppers. But then the Torah says, Solom is a prat. And then limineu on the bottom of the pasuk. 4 times it says limineu. That's another klal. That makes it a sandwich. I have a klal in the beginning, klal at the end, and the very only 4 types of grasshoppers in the middle. That's a klal, prat, klal. Prat. So it lets me add a lot of things, but they have to be similar to the prat. And umar it only has to be similar to one thing. So what's the one thing that has to be similar? As long as it has the 4 simanim, 4 feet, 4 wings, 2 jumpers, and the 4 wings cover most of the body, and that could include many, many grasshoppers. Okay, so we're done with that. The Gemara asks, what kind of sandwich is it? If you take rye bread on the bottom and you put a bagel on the top, that's not a good sandwich. That's a funny kind of sandwich. If you're going to give me one klal that's like this and another klal that's different, that's not a klal, brother klal. The first one is not similar to the second one. Why? The first klal is that it should have jumpers. So the second klal should also be jumpers. No. It has to have jumpers plus 4 legs plus 4 wings and the chayfe roiv gufay. So maybe it's not a klal, prat klal. Says the Gemara, it is why I told Rabbi Shmuel b'klal product ki hagavna dain. Rabbi Shmuel holds that this is a klal product klal in all of Shas. But believe it or not, this is the Mikar. He learns it from we in the rest of Shas know that Torah Rabbi Shmuel learns like that from our sugi right here. It's from this sugi right over here. We continue weiter. Obamar, new sugya. Ishmay Chagav. We said yesterday, as long as his name is Chagav, once the name, that's his name. If his name is Chagav, then he's good. He's good to go. He's a grasshopper. Ask the Gemara, that makes no sense. We said that a grasshopper has to have 4 simanim. Who cares if they call him a grasshopper? Oh, I need a pasuk to tell me that that he has to have the simanim. As the Gemara, why should I say that he's kosher? We had a klal, brother klal. Dafka, it has to be the simanim. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you why. Oh, we have the klal brother. He likes if salam to the cameras. You're right. If it wouldn't have the third one, salam. Which one is it? The second one, salam. But it says salam. And what do I learn from salam? If he's a weird-looking grasshopper, has a shtick a long head, then it's still kosher. So once I make an exception to the rule. I say that a long-headed guy is kosher. So Mela, I would think that anything is kosher, even if his name is Chagav, even without the simanim. Kamash will know you need the 4 simanim. There's no monkey business here. And finally, the last sugya for the grasshoppers, and this is very simple, just 3-4 lines here, but it's very simple. Yesterday we said that the salam, the one without a tail, here, let me show you the tail. I got to show you the tail one. This is with the tail. See that long thing in the back? There's a type of grasshopper that has a tail. That's the name Chargol, Zanipul. Chargol is with a tail. Salam's without a tail. But yesterday we said Salam, they call him a Russian. And Chargol, we call him an Ipul. And today, Maishnohacha, the Amr Salam's an Ipul, Chargol is a Russian. We flipped it. Says Gemara, Marki Asrei, Marki Asrei. It depends on what city you live in. Sometimes you call it a Ipul, sometimes you call it a Russian. But the basic stays, Salam is without a tail, and Chargol is with a tail. Just sometimes you call a Salam Russian, and sometimes you call a Salam Nipul. That depends on the city. But a Salam is always without a tail. Okay, here we go. We're new sugya. The sugya of fish. So the Torah says, that we learned in the Mishnah. Kaskeses is like the armor, the little things that he has on all the scales on his body. They peel off. So says the Gemara, the Gemara says, let's say right now he's born without scales, but he's going to develop scales later when he becomes a big boy. Kugoin has sultanis. So what's sultanis? Rashi says, Belaz toinina. Sounds like tuna. But they say it's not mamish. And what they claim, the Arch Rule says at least, that sultanis is what we call today herring. Okay? Vafion on a flyer. I have no idea. I just made that up. If he has scales, but it comes off when they pull him out of the water. Kigoin. For instance, akunos vafunos, kesaptayos, vaktastapayos, vatunos. Oh, this is more like tuna. Harez mutar. Not awesome. Kol sheyeshli keskeses, yeshli snapper. You hear this? A yisoid. If a fish has scales, he automatically has a snapper. Yeshli snapper, mainly keskeses. What's pshat? Yeshli keskeses, yeshli snapper. If he has keskeses, he has the armor, then automatically has a snapper, dog tar. Then it's tar. Yeshli snapper, if he only has fins, mainly keskeses, he doesn't have keskeses. Dag tome. This is a tome fish. So the Gemara asks right away. First of all, I want to show you Tosfos. Tosfos has a kasha. How did Chacham know this? How do they know? Here's Tosfos. I looked it up. There's 37,000 types of fish. There's only 6,800 types of animals. There's 37,000 types of fish. How in the world the Chachamim, what they went in, they scuba dive down deep and they know every fish? It's not possible. Where were they that they knew all this? So he says at the end, he says, maybe, maybe they got it from Adam Rishon. They had such a Kabbalah from Adam Rishon. The Kloisenberger Rebbe says, we'll see it in a second. In Yagdul Torah V'Yad, I'll say it. Remind me to say the Kloisenberger. But now, based on this Taisus, it's more Gishmak. So, Yeshua is not really Kaskasas, Dag Tomei. Ask the Gemara the obvious question. We rely solely on the Kaskasas, on the scales. We don't care about the snapper. So then why in the world, so why does the Torah even mention fins? They're not important. The main thing is the Kaskasas. Says Gemara, because of snapper, I don't even know what Kaskasas means. It's a funny word. What's snapper? So I would think that snapper means scales. So maybe I would start eating tummy fish. That's why I need both. Says Gemara, how do you know which one is what? They say it says both. So okay, one of them means armor, one of them means scales, one of them means fins. But how do you know which one is what? Because it says by Goliath, when David HaMelech went to fight Goliath, he's wearing a whole armor. It says Mefurish Kaskasim. That's like we have today armor, one piece of metal on top of the other. That's what scales look like. Which everybody asks, Goliath is a Navi. How do I know? And what? And from the Torah until David HaMelech, we didn't know what it was. So they talk about it. They didn't know. We don't know. Okay. So now that we know, and here's the bigger question. Now from Goliath, from David HaMelech, we know what kaskasim means. So why does the Torah have to tell us both? Which is interesting how the two things go together. It's a pasuk. It's to enhance the Torah, to make it more geschmack and to more interesting. We have snapper, we have kaskesses. Kaskesses is enough, but it says snapper v kaskesses. Now we know that when you have kaskesses, you have snapper. But over here, the Kloisenberger Rebbe says, and that's based on what Tosfos says that other Mauritian already knew, that Yagdul Torah Yadir is a way to tell Klal Yisrael Torah is real. How do I know Torah is real? The Chachamim had, it's not, I don't want to use the word, I'm not going to use that word, not a good word. Chachamim had no problem stating a fact and saying that snapir, kaskeses, is the siman, and automatically you have, if you have kaskeses, you have snapper. 2,000 years later, we have scuba diving gear, and we have submarines. We could go down to see the Titanic, and down there, that fish that you don't have up there, that fish that never come up. They have these fish, you ever seen these pictures? Giant light in front, it has like a tube and a light in front, and it swims like 3,000 feet below the surface, and other fish go to it. It's like this thing right over here, this, maybe I should show it. Oh, that guy, that zapper right over there. It attracts flies, that thing. And his light, he has a glowing thing, and it attracts other fish to it, and then he eats them. So how did Chacham know that if he has, I have to do this, let's see if it works. Oh, it worked. So how did Chacham know this? That all the fish in the world, if they have kaskasim, that's the Yagdul Torah V'Yadir. That is, it's proof that Torah Min HaShamayim, that they were able to say things. We saw a similar thing about Behemoths and Chayas. They were able to say that even later generations, you'll never find the fish that has kaskasim and doesn't have fins. Torah Rabbana. The Torah says, eat fish that have snapper v'kaskesses, and don't eat fish that don't have snapper v'kaskesses. It's basically saying the same thing twice. Why? Because if I tell you eat fish that have snapper v'kaskesis, that means don't eat fish that don't have. Hold on, did I miss a video? Oh no, didn't. Gotta show that one.
Fish tank.
His doggy. That's that. That was a very interesting one. Oh, that one, yeah. Okay. So we'll get to it in a second. So ask the Gemara a simple question. Since it says you should eat, do eat. So don't eat something that doesn't have stomach. And then the second passage, it says don't eat that. And I learned the opposite. That if it don't eat this, but you could eat one that has stomach. So why does the Torah repeat itself? Oh, so remember this. I think it's something important to remember. If a person is stuck in China and he has a taiva to eat an eel, a funny fish, you should know that you're over on two isurim. Lavar levasei v'loisasei. First, you're over in a loisasei, the usual, but also in an asei. Because it says, do eat fish that have snapper v'kaskeses. Says the Gemara, okay, we did this. No. Toichlu. So this is the sugi rabboisai of eating worms, beheter. You're allowed to eat worms. Why? You're allowed to eat worms that grew within a kli. Not worms that grew in the ocean, not worms. So I want to show you the 4 types of water that we're talking about. Very important. There's yamim and nechalim. Nechalim we all know. We all went today to see the nachal right across the street. Streams of water. This is not even a guzma. This is what it looks like over here. With those pink, purple flowers. I don't know if you noticed, they also have purple moths here. Purple moths. Yam. This is one type of, but there's also another type of water called charitzim and ne'itzim. This is actually water that's moving, constantly comes out of the ground. You could make a hole in the ground, but it's water from the Tahaim. Then we have bar, shiach, umara. What's the difference between a bar, shiach? It's all the same thing. One is round, that's a bar. I know some people call it siach, shiach. Shiach is a square or rectangle. And ma'ara means it has a cover. It's like it's a cave. You what? Yeah, like in Gaza. Like what they try to do to them in Gaza. Fill it up with water and then, yeah. So, those are and then we have one more. We have, this is the worst of the worst. This is the furthest thing from a yam. And that's putting water in a kli. So, eat anything that's in the water, which we're going to discuss more tomorrow. There's a pasuk that tells you straight out that you could eat these worms that grow in the water. And there's a pasuk that's more of a nister, it's sasum. The pasuk that says straight out that you're allowed to eat these worms, the heter is when it's in a vessel, in a kli. So too, the other pasuk that talks about stam, we're going to show the 2 psukim, but we don't know which one is what today. In the rabbis boros shichin u'ma'aros, you could bend down and drink straight out of the bar, and you don't have to worry about all these worms. We're going to see if mamish to us is going to be mind blowing that you're allowed to lechatchila eat worms in certain situations. Pasuk says, eat everything that's in the water. Worms. You could eat all these fish that are in the water that have snapper v'kaskeses. Only from the ocean and the nachal are you allowed to eat with snapper v'kaskeses. The less leilei teichol. Only from those places you must have snapper v'kaskeses. Oh, bekalim avagad less teichol. But if they grow up in a vessel, so even if they don't have snapper v'kaskeses, you're allowed to eat it. So in New York, they're saying that a lot of the water is the water. It's a shayla. is the water coming from a river, or the water comes from a reservoir? Remember, in the mountains, you drive by, there's like a reservoir. It's like stale water. They put it in there, or like, those giant water towers.
Central Park has a reservoir in Manhattan. It's very big.
Inside
the park.
Middle of the park.
Reservoir of water.
Okay. But you see it more like when you go to these cities in America, you see the big tower, those big balloons, and then so that's a kli. That's mamsh kli. It's a kli on the ground, attached to the ground. It's more like it's karka. Okay. So, but the Torah tells us that if it grows up in a kli, you're allowed to eat this worm. Obviously, it's not a worm that grew up somewhere else and jumped into the kli. It has to grow up in the kli. What about if it comes out of the kli? What if it goes up the walls of the kli and it goes back in? So that's going to be the discussion tomorrow also. That's fine because it's normal for it to go up, down, as long as it didn't come from another place. Ask the Gemara, Ema, maybe learn it differently. Ema bekalim afagav de islay loiteichal. You're making a difference between the ocean and a kli. And somehow you came out that if it grows up in a kli, you're allowed to eat it. Maybe if it grows up in a kli, even if it has snabber v'keses, you cannot eat it. That makes more sense almost. We don't eat worms, right? We're not worm-eating people. Says Gemara, no. I'll tell you why, because we have another pasuk now. No, that shouldn't even enter your mind. Only from the oceans and the rivers, if they don't have snapper, you're not allowed to eat. And these are the two psukim that we're talking about, the mafurish and the sasam. Now what? We come to the same conclusion that when you have these creatures that grow in a kli, you're allowed to eat. Ask the Gemara of Eima b'mayim klal. Here, check this out. So we have a klal. What's a klal? All the types of waters, all four waters that we discussed: the ocean, the charitzin, the bar, and the kli. Because it says the word mayim. Mayim means all water. And then we have a prat. If I could get to it somehow, prat. It says bayamim ubenachalim. Only these two. Then we have another klal that says bamayim again. But take a look at the pasuk. If you see the pasuk inside, you're gonna ask the question yourself. Look what it says over here. It says bamayim, bamayim. That's a klal, and then the prat is bayamim v'nechalim moizim techelu. The prat is at the end of the pasuk. What's the problem? Usually we have a sandwich. We have bamayim in the beginning. Bayamim v'nechalim moizim techelu should be in the middle, and then once again afterwards bayamim, bamayim. But over here we have klal, prat. Does that work? So let's see. So first of all, the Gemara doesn't go to the klal prat, the klal. So now the Gemara starts that it's not a klal prat. It's a klal and then a prat. And what happens when you have a klal and a prat? We don't care about the klal at all. We go to the prat. The what? Ma prat yamu nechalim in ni'itzim v'charitzin loy. We're going to take even the thing closest to the yam. What's number 2 on the list? Ni'itzim v'charitzin. They come out of the ground. No good. Says, well, no, I have a klal prat klal. Bamayim. There's another bamayim. Chazav v'kolal. Now I have a klal prat klal. But says the Gemara, here's charitzim. Says the Gemara, but hanatrei klal d'smichla adadinino. But the two mayims, let's go back to that pasuk for a second. The two mayims are one after another. How does that work? Hanatrei klal d'smichla adadinino. Amar Avin is not a problem. They said it's Israel. When you have these two maims one after another, it's not. We pretend as if it's a sandwich, as if the word b'mayim, the second b'mayim, goes all the way to the end of the pasuk. So we have b'mayim klal, bayam v'nechalim. It says all the way to the end of the pasuk. That's a prat. It says once again b'mayim chazar v'kolal. Klat upral uklat iya klal uprat uklal. What time is it? It's 2:00 in the morning. What do you expect? Klal uprat uklal iatadon elokena prat. So now that we have a sandwich, so the prat is not so bad. The prat just gives us direction. It tells us it should be similar to this. You could add a lot of types of waters, but they have to be similar to the prat. Ma prat meforish mayim noivim. It's water that keeps on coming out. I've called mayim noivim. So what does that include, my rabbi? Charitzim uni'isim ni'itzim li'isura. Umay rabbi, sorry, where am I? My rabbi charitzim ni'itzim li'isura. Umay miyet is klal prat klal. What do you take out? Boirois, shichin, uma'aris, le'teira. Those you're allowed to eat from, but charitzim ni'itzim is like the river in the ocean, and that's also to eat from. If you want to eat the geshmaka, things that grow, the treifa things that grow, you could go to El Yakum's restaurant, yishkoyach, and have a gutav.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.